Hi everybody, it's Robbie from Southern California, and I'm sitting in the area in which I feed a lot of the hummingbirds, though I have feeders all over the property. Today I only want to talk about one thing, ants. I'm getting so many questions on ants. You've got ant problems, how do you stop the ants? Let me tell you something with ants. Those are the easiest problems to have. Yes, they come. Yes, certain times of the year, they go crazy looking for hummingbird feeders. What they're doing is they're looking for food. They want to store that sugar water for the winter is what they're doing. Now, there are multiple ways of getting rid of ants. I've got a lot of videos on that. I'll put the links to it, so check them out. On the ants, if you're hanging your feeders like I am, it doesn't matter how you're hanging them, whether you're hanging them from a hook or if you're hanging them from a tree, an ant moat. You can buy them. I've seen them on eBay. They're just a couple dollars. They're out here. There was like a ton of them a minute ago. They're probably in the tree. We have a lot of ravens and stuff. You can buy ant moats. They're really, really cheap. They're like $3. But I make my own. They're the easiest things to make. Now, my very first video showed a small cup. I don't have one here. But what I do now is I make them larger. This is an old shampoo bottle. Look at the size of it. I put a hook on it, and I've got the whole video on how to make it. You just make a hole on the bottom of whatever you want to use, an old water bottle, an old juice bottle. You make a hole. I use my soldering iron. I make a hole, and then I slip the wire through. I bend it in the fashion in which I want it to be. And I like putting a hook. Just get a heavy-duty wire. You can use a hanger if you've got one, any wire. You can get wire at the hardware store, really, really cheap. Just buy it by the foot, a little piece. And then you push it through, and inside, I know you really can't see it, but let me see if you can see it there. That is just glue from a glue gun. You just kind of load it in there, let it dry, and that's it. See the length, how far? Let me tell you something. Ants do not swim, all right? They cannot swim. There's one species of ant that was recently found, and it's in Australia. So if you've got it here in the United States, you better call the authorities and tell them somebody brought him here. They cannot swim. Now, that's not to say it's not going to dry out your water. You know, it might drip out. So make sure you got a good seal if you're making your own ant moat. But all you have to do is fill that up with water. Don't put anything else in there. Don't put vinegar, because let me tell you something, the hummingbirds sometimes take a drink out of that. And keep an eye on it. Make sure it's full of water. That's why I like using a large type cup. And you could even, I could have cut the bottle even bigger so the water would stay in there. Then you hang this up wherever you're going to hang it. Let's say this is a swing. They don't use it really that much. And then you can hang your feeder underneath. The ants only have one way to get to this feeder, and that is crawl down here. They cannot cross the water. They can't swim. They're going to drown. Now, that's not to say they're not going to tell all their friends to jump in and make a raft and bring us over, or a bridge. Sometimes they do that. A lot of them will fall in there, they'll drown, they'll float, and they crawl across them, but that's still kind of rare. Keep an eye on it. Fill it with water. You probably only have to fill it once a day, and that is it. The bigger the vessel on the top, the longer the water will last in there. And that's all you have to do. Now, if you're feeding in, let's say, like peanut butter cups I use, or let's look over here for a minute. There is, let's see, my window's got a clip on it, and I've got to clip it or they'll come in the house. See the ones there? Let me zoom in for a minute so you can see. There we go. Now look at it. Okay, let me step back. My ice cream containers are sitting in plates, thick plates. So now I can fill it. Some of them are old food containers. I can fill it. I know you can't see through here that well, but you saw it a second ago. Let me lift it again. I just don't want any hummingbirds in the house. That's the last thing you want. Okay, sorry about all this moving around. Now see the plates? Those are full of water on the bottom. The dish is okay, but it does dry out. There's a dish there. That's a dish. But the other two black ones, one's a bowl and one's a food container. I fill those with water. And then that will get rid of my ants, just having it full of water. The ants can't get to it. Now, if I forget to fill it, then yes, I'm going to have a problem. And then I end up with ants. But ants, they just don't do well with water. So you should be perfectly fine by putting out anything like an ant moat or something for the hummingbirds. Again, you can get rid of ants. I know some of you grease the sticks or the wire that you're hanging it from and all that. And if it works for you, most certainly do whatever works for you. For me, an ant moat. Now, as you see, I've got all these feeders and I have no ant moats out. That's because right now, I call it marching. They're not marching. Right now, our weather is fairly good. They're finding enough food in other places and they're not looking that much for the hummingbird feeders. They don't raid the hummingbird feeders normally all year round. They raid them when they can't find enough food. Then they send out their little scouts. It's one ant. He goes out there and he goes back to his nest and he does his little like, come on everybody, come follow me, I found it, and then they all come. So that's all you have to do is an ant moat. And you can even sometimes just unhook the feeder and hang it somewhere else. Once the ants get to the feeder, do take the feeder in, wash the ants down the sink if you have to with hot water, and put it back because they won't necessarily feed out of it because the ants do something to the food. Do you ever get an ant in your mouth? I have, and they're bitter. Now, I'm not talking about big red ants. I'm talking about the regular, simple, they're small black ants. We have Argentine ants. There's also grease ants. They're the ones that are usually coming to the feeders, and they're the ones that are just collecting for the winter. So make an ant moat. It literally will take you seconds. Look around the house. I'm sure you've got a bottle or something. And then that's it. That's all you need. You don't need poison. You don't need vinegar. You don't need oil. But if it works for you. Now, putting oil on here, grease, whatever you want to put on there. Some people use vapor rub. I don't want the hummingbirds to get that on them. That's what I worry about. But if it works for you, fine. The thing is, that's going to wear off faster than an ant moat. So I hope I've given you some thoughts. Some of the feeders do have a built-in ant moat on the top, and you fill that with water. They're very shallow usually, so they can dry out in a matter of hours a lot of times, but that will work too. So I hope I've given you some answers on ants. Keep in mind, they're not usually there all the time. Say I don't have that much trouble with ants. They do periodically come. I'll get up in the morning. They might be marching up here and going across, and then I just wipe them away and put an ant moat there. They come back. They can't cross it. They leave. So that's it. So I hope I've answered your question on ants. One of the easiest things to deal with. And ask your questions, give your ideas and thoughts, what works for you. Put everything on the bottom so you can help other people. Hey, you may give me an idea that I haven't tried. Look at the ravens. And that will be wonderful. So always feel free to give your thoughts because, you know, all it takes is something that somebody hasn't thought of. Look at that. Look at all the ravens. And you just never know who's got what idea and what will work. I'm telling you, hummingbirds don't like ravens either. I've seen the hummingbirds chasing them around. But hummingbirds absolutely love their ice cream containers, peanut butter cups, and dots as well. So let's hope that I've answered some of your questions. And if not, ask again and I'll try again. I'm sure we can come up with answers to make these hummingbirds happy. They're all hiding in the tree, and I think they're hiding from the ravens too. And they come in, they've already been coming in and they're feeding all day. The migrators are starting to come in now. With that, have a wonderful, wonderful day. And don't forget to eat what you grow. I wish I could grow this for the hummingbirds. That's one thing I cannot do because hummingbirds need sucrose. And even if I grew sugarcane, which I do, you can't make it right because it's got to be chemically changed into that one format. And that's the only thing they can eat is sucrose. And that's why I use 1/4 cup of white granulated sugar and 1 cup of water. Mix it up. And if you don't have that many hummingbirds, just put a little bit in your feeder and store the remainder in your refrigerator for up to a week. And this way you can bring in your feeder every couple days, wash it, and put in some fresh food from the refrigerator. Have a wonderful day. And don't forget to eat what you grow. Bye-bye. Be adding more feeders on here soon because I can see the migrators have been starting to come through.